For centuries, the figure of Jesus has been a central mystery in the fabric of humanity. Who was he really? An enlightened man? The Son of God? A revolutionary prophet? Or something beyond human comprehension? This script delves deep into the spiritual, historical, and esoteric essence of Jesus, tracing a path that transcends religious dogmas to reveal hidden layers of his identity. The story of Jesus is not just a religious narrative, but a phenomenon that has shaped cultures, inspired revolutions, and deeply touched the hearts of millions of people over the centuries. His life and teachings represent a paradox, at once human and divine, simple and transcendent, practical and mysterious. For many, he is the ultimate symbol of unconditional love and redemption. For others, he is a historical figure shrouded in myths and interpretations that vary according to the cultural and spiritual lenses through which he is viewed. But is it possible to truly understand who Jesus was? This script proposes a broad and multifaceted approach. Let's explore the historical context that shaped the figure of Jesus, his central messages, the esoteric perspective that reveals deeper layers of his identity, and the spiritual impact he continues to exert today. The goal is not to provide definitive answers, but to open a space for reflection, questioning, and discovery. The journey to understand Jesus is, in truth, a journey to understand ourselves. His words and actions reflect universal truths that transcend the barriers of time and space, connecting us with the essence of what it means to be human and divine. This is not just a study about a figure from the past, but an invitation to awaken to the spiritual reality he personified, and that continues to inspire humanity. Let's begin this journey by exploring the world in which Jesus lived, a scenario of political, spiritual, and cultural tensions that profoundly influenced his mission and message. Through this understanding, we can lay the foundations to delve deeper into the true identity of the one called the Christ. To understand the true identity of Jesus, it is essential to start with the historical context. Jesus was born in the region of Judea, a province of the Roman Empire, around 4 BC, in a period of intense political and spiritual agitation. The Jewish people lived under Roman oppression, nurturing the hope of the arrival of a Messiah promised by the Scriptures. This Messiah was expected as a political and military liberator, someone who would restore the glory of Israel. The Jewish society of the time was deeply religious, divided into various sects such as the Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, and Zealots. Each group had its own interpretation of the Scriptures and expectations regarding the Messiah. Additionally, there was a great tension between Jewish traditions and the Hellenistic influences brought by the Romans, creating a fertile environment for theological debates and popular revolts. In this context, Jesus emerged as a singular figure. Instead of aligning with the expectations of a military liberator, he presented a profoundly spiritual and revolutionary message. He preached inner transformation, compassion, and forgiveness as paths to true freedom. His approach challenged both the religious authorities and the political dominion of Rome, becoming a threat to both powers. It is also important to highlight the cultural role of Galilee, where Jesus grew up. This region was a crossroads of cultures, with a diverse population that included Jews and Gentiles. This multicultural coexistence may have influenced Jesus' universal message, which transcended ethnic and religious barriers. Thus, the historical context of Jesus shows us a scenario of tensions and hopes, of oppression and the search for redemption. It was in this environment that his message of unconditional love and spiritual transformation began to resonate, planting the seeds of a revolution that would transcend centuries. At the heart of Jesus' teachings is the idea of the kingdom of God. This expression, frequently used by him, transcends literal interpretations and points to a deep spiritual reality. Jesus did not see the kingdom as a physical territory or an earthly government, but as an elevated state of consciousness, accessible to all who sought connection with the divine. "The kingdom of God is within you" is one of his most emblematic declarations. This phrase reveals that true spirituality does not depend on external structures, but on an inner transformation. For Jesus, the kingdom was a state of union with God, where love, compassion, and truth reigned over the ego and worldly desires. He taught that entering the kingdom of God required a radical change in the way of living and thinking. This included the practice of unconditional love, forgiveness even in the face of injustice, and humility in recognizing the divine presence in oneself and others. His message was revolutionary because it directly confronted the social and religious norms of his time, which often emphasized the external observance of rules rather than a true internal transformation. Jesus' parables were one of his main tools for conveying the essence of the kingdom. Stories like the prodigal son, the Good Samaritan, and the sower not only illustrated deep spiritual principles, but also challenged his listeners to reflect on their own lives and values. These simple yet profoundly symbolic narratives continue to inspire and challenge humanity today. Moreover, Jesus emphasized the importance of faith and surrender. He often said, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move." This metaphor demonstrates the transformative power of genuine faith, which can overcome any obstacle and open the way for the manifestation of the divine in our lives. In essence, Jesus' central teaching was not about following dogmas or traditions, but about realizing a spiritual truth that transcends all barriers. He pointed to a reality where unconditional love and connection with God are not privileges of a few, but the true nature of all human beings. The esoteric view of Jesus presents him as a being who transcends the limitations of common human existence. He is often described as someone who manifested the state of consciousness known as Christ, a level of spiritual realization that goes beyond the ego and aligns completely with the divine consciousness. According to esoteric traditions such as Gnosticism and Theosophy, Jesus did not come just to save humanity from its sins, but to reveal the divine potential inherent in all human beings. His mission was to awaken humanity to the truth that each one carries within themselves the divine spark, a direct connection with the Creator. Apocryphal Gospels, such as the Gospel of Thomas, reinforce this idea by presenting Jesus as a master of self-knowledge. He said, "Whoever knows himself will know the Father." This statement suggests that true spirituality is not in rituals or dogmas, but in the inner search for unity with the divine. Another important aspect of the esoteric perspective is the idea that Jesus was initiated into ancient spiritual traditions. Some scholars and mystics suggest that he may have traveled to places like Egypt, India, and Tibet, absorbing universal wisdom teachings that he would integrate into his own message. This theory finds echoes in parallels between Jesus' teachings and those of other spiritual figures, such as Buddha and Krishna. The resurrection, under the esoteric lens, is seen not just as a literal event, but as a symbol of the transcendence of the ego and the victory of the spirit over matter. This event demonstrates the path that all beings can tread, dying to the limitations of the material world and being reborn in an enlightened state of consciousness. Furthermore, the esoteric perspective recognizes Jesus as an avatar or a manifestation of the divine consciousness on earth. Similar to the avatars in Hindu traditions, he came at a moment of need to restore spiritual balance and guide humanity to an era of greater consciousness. Therefore, Jesus, in the esoteric view, is much more than a historical or religious figure. He is an archetype, a living symbol of the human potential to achieve union with the divine. His life and teachings remind us that enlightenment is not a privilege of a few, but the destiny of all who seek sincerely. The concept of cosmic Christ symbolizes the union between the divine and the human, a manifestation of the divine consciousness that permeates all creation. Jesus became the purest expression of this consciousness on earth, but the Christ, as essence, exists beyond any individual. The term cosmic Christ symbolizes the union between the divine and the human. It is the realization that all creation is sustained by a supreme and loving intelligence. This view is not exclusive to Christianity. We find parallels in other spiritual traditions. In Hinduism, for example, the idea of Brahman represents the ultimate reality, present in all beings and forms. Jesus often referred to this universal dimension in his teachings. When he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," he was not just referring to himself as an individual, but to the Christic consciousness he personified. This consciousness is the path to liberation, the truth that dissolves the illusions of the ego, and the life that transcends death. The Christic consciousness is not something reserved for a few enlightened ones. Jesus emphasized that all of us have the potential to manifest it. His words, "You will do greater works than these," echo the idea that humanity is called to evolve spiritually and live in harmony with this divine essence. Moreover, the cosmic Christ points to the interconnectedness of all that exists. On the cosmic level, there is no separation between the creator and creation, between the divine and the human. This unity is the foundation of all mystical traditions and is the core of Jesus' message. He invited us to live in tune with this reality, recognizing the divine presence in ourselves and in the world around us. Therefore, the cosmic Christ is not just a theological concept, but a living experience. It is the awakening to the truth that we are part of something much larger, of a love that sustains the universe. Jesus, as the full manifestation of this consciousness, showed us the way, but it is up to each of us to tread this path and realize this truth in our own lives. Even 2 millennia after his passage on earth, the spiritual impact of Jesus continues to resonate powerfully in humanity. His message of love, compassion, and forgiveness has transcended cultures, religions, and epochs, inspiring billions of people in their search for meaning and purpose. Jesus is not just a historical or religious figure. He has become an archetype of the highest human potential. His words and actions remain as a constant reminder that true transformation begins within, in the way we see ourselves and others. His life teaches us that genuine spirituality is lived in the everyday, in the small and large decisions shaped by love. Today, in a world marked by divisions, conflicts, and existential crises, the spiritual impact of Jesus manifests in various forms. From global social justice movements inspired by his teachings to mindfulness practices that echo his call to presence in the moment, Jesus' message continues to be relevant. Moreover, his vision of the kingdom of God, understood as an elevated state of consciousness, finds resonance in contemporary spiritual practices. Many recognize that Jesus' message does not limit itself to religious dogmas, but points to a universal truth that connects all spiritual traditions, the search for unity with the divine and harmony with all creation. In the field of psychology, Jesus' teachings on forgiveness have been validated as essential practices for emotional and mental health. His invitation to love enemies and forgive offenses is not just a spiritual ideal, but a powerful tool to liberate the mind from the weight of resentment and pain. Furthermore, the impact of Jesus today can be seen in the growing search for a spirituality that transcends religious boundaries. He is recognized as a universal master, whose life and teachings speak directly to the human heart, regardless of specific beliefs. This recognition reflects the concept of the cosmic Christ, where the divine essence of Jesus is seen as present in all creation. In a world in rapid transformation, Jesus' legacy challenges us to look beyond appearances and recognize the divine spark in ourselves and others. His life invites us to live with courage, authenticity, and love, even in the face of adversity. His spiritual impact is a reminder that, regardless of external circumstances, true peace and joy come from connection with the divine. Therefore, the spiritual impact of Jesus today is not just a memory of the past, but a living force that continues to inspire and transform humanity. He calls us to awaken to our higher potential and to walk with purpose, knowing that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. The true identity of Jesus transcends labels and definitions. He was not just a man, a prophet, or the Son of God. He was and is a living reminder of the unity between the divine and the human. By exploring his life and teachings, we are invited to recognize the same divine spark within ourselves. The journey to understand Jesus is a journey to understand ourselves. By exploring his life and teachings, we are invited to recognize the same divine spark within ourselves. The true identity of Jesus transcends labels and definitions, revealing itself as a living reminder of the unity between the divine and the human. Through his message of unconditional love and spiritual transformation, Jesus challenged the social and religious norms of his time, becoming a threat to both powers. His revolutionary approach pointed to a deep spiritual reality, where love, compassion, and truth reigned over the ego and worldly desires. The esoteric perspective on Jesus presents him as a being who transcends the limitations of common human existence, manifesting the state of consciousness known as Christ. He is an archetype, a living symbol of the human potential to achieve union with the divine. His life and teachings remind us that enlightenment is not a privilege of a few, but the destiny of all who seek sincerely. The concept of cosmic Christ symbolizes the union between the divine and the human, a manifestation of the divine consciousness that permeates all creation. Jesus became the purest expression of this consciousness on earth, but the Christ as essence exists beyond any individual. Today, the spiritual impact of Jesus continues to resonate powerfully in humanity. His message of love, compassion, and forgiveness has transcended cultures, religions, and epochs, inspiring billions of people in their search for meaning and purpose. He calls us to awaken to our higher potential and to walk with purpose, knowing that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. Ultimately, the true identity of Jesus is a reflection of our own divine identity. By exploring his life and teachings, we are invited to recognize the same divine spark within ourselves, to awaken to the spiritual reality he personified, and that continues to inspire humanity. Thanks for watching.